Hi, friends. Welcome back. So, Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway just had their annual meeting, and I want to go over the details of this stuff, and let's just jump right in. So, this is the headlines everywhere, and if you don't know, he's basically our most prolific investor in history, and his company here, Berkshire Hathaway, $867 billion market cap, so number 8, just behind Meta Platform and just ahead of Taiwan Semi, so not quite at a trillion. And it's interesting because I think this probably is going to be his last meeting, to be perfectly frank. It just he's old. I think he's 93, and Mr. Munger just died last year, and I was really sad to hear that. And I've always liked Warren. I like the stuff that he says, and that's why it's good to just go over all these things. He actually went to my university, which is cool, and yeah, I like Warren. Let's start with this. So he actually had a scheduling here. I was telling you guys, it's like the Super Bowl. So they start at 9:30. They even have a halftime show right at 1, and then I guess they stop at around 4:30. And first thing is when you talk about Mr. Buffett, right? It's not really the same show without Charlie there. Charlie's kind of the comedian of the bunch, and they kind of work off together. But it doesn't mean that it's bad advice or anything. It's a different show. I guess they were saying here that they've been buying some sort of secret bank stock. I don't know which one it is. I know they've been buying Sirius, like the radio satellite thing. I'm not sure exactly why. And then they're saying like the rumors are buying whatever bank stock. And the banks have been melting down, so it's buy low, sell high, right? The last time they did secret stuff, I guess, was when they were picking up Chevron and Verizon. There's always a secret for him because like, if it leaks out, what he's buying, you want to get in it because they don't really sell that often. They just buy and hold. So it'll be supported, right? This is sort of kind of the, mood of the place where people are lining up. It's fun. And the other thing is that I guess they got a bunch of cash. So, and they're fine with that, right? If they feel like that valuations, meaning that, tech stocks or whatever stocks are too expensive, there's nothing like, in terms of a great value, just hold on the cash. So that's what they're doing. So it's a record. It says 188 billion, 188.99 billion, which is actually quite a bit. And it's actually saying here, the increase in cash comes as operating profit in the first quarter rose 39%. So they're still making money over there, even though despite they haven't necessarily deployed all of their money. The other big news is what they sold their Apple stake. It was like 13% or something like that. Yeah. So it says here, that's based on disclosure from Berkshire's Apple stake worth 135 billion. So that's quite a bit. That's 13% of it. The issue with the Apple situation is, you don't necessarily want to get one of your investments being so large. He didn't like flat out say, Apple's overvalued and, we hate Apple. He didn't really say that. He kind of hinted at that maybe it could be for tax reasons because he actually, after he talked about the Apple thing, he started talking about how, and I thought it was a good discussion, to be honest. He was talking about how, as a company, we're okay paying taxes. We've benefited from the success of the USA, and it's just our duty to people. He talked about we're going to pay 21% tax on this big Apple sale, and then sometimes taxes go up, and he was talking about how probably they're going to be going up to meet the government deficit. And he said a really interesting thing too as well. I think he mentioned like 500 companies or something like that. But he was saying, if every company like ours and 500 others paid their fair share, then regular Americans would be fine for retirement. They wouldn't have to pay tax at all, et cetera. So he wasn't like saying tax only companies and don't tax people. Just saying that if companies paid their fair share of taxes. So I thought that was an important point. He said these kind of things all along. And he's fine paying taxes. I think he said he wrote a check of $5 billion in taxes, but I thought that was a really poignant thing to say. Just be thankful of the opportunities that you have in the USA, and don't, and I agree with Warren Buffett here. Just sometimes people think, oh, I'm so rich, it's all my money, I did it all by myself, and I don't owe anyone anything, and I don't like that kind of talk. So a simple example is if you're a CEO of a company, thank your workers. It's not you only alone as CEO is generating all the value. Your workers are there as well. Same way as if you're investing, just understand that the whole system, right, is we're all in this together. So people can have different points of view on that. Just tell what Mr. Buffett said. They were talking about too what's going on when Buffett retires. Like I said, I think this is the last one. So he says here, this is an advisor actually. succession is quite frankly a top of mind issue for most investors. What it's like, the elephant room, yeah, given Buffett's age and the passing of Charlie Munger. Mr. Buffett, his health didn't seem that good. It just his mind is still there, but I like I said, I think this might be his last one, and it's a shame. I've always enjoyed hearing what they have to say. Yeah, so I guess, wow, 30,000 people came there. I'm just kind of going through all the stuff here, and there's Charlie's book. So I guess it's called Poor Charlie. That would be the one to pick up. Yeah, they always refer to Mr. Munger as being the architect of Berkshire Hathaway. And yeah, talking about cash stake. I'm just kind of going through literally all of it and see if we miss anything. Yeah, I remember hearing these rumors about that they were investing heavily in Japan, and that ended up, I think they ended up timing that pretty well. There's another rumor sort of going around that they may be investing in something in Canada. Again, this is why you go over this stuff is, if you can figure out what Buffett's buying, since they're going to buy and hold, and it's a reasonable investment, and then, they did all the research, etc. Their three biggest holdings is Apple, American Express, and Coca-Cola, and they talk about that. It says here, Buffett said it's extremely likely that Apple will remain the largest holding at his conglomerate despite the recent slowdown in sales. So again, it's not like they hate Apple. They just, sold some off, and whether to pay taxes or also too, things that he says carry a lot of weight. Like, for example, if Mr. Buffett says, hey, I'm selling Apple because they're awful and I hate them. And everyone's like, oh my God, Buffett said they're awful. So he's got to be careful of the stuff that he says. He's kind of like Jerome Powell in that way. Everyone follows him, right? Also says here, the Oracle of Omaha said Berkshire will continue to own some of his top holdings, American Express, Apple, Coca-Cola, when he's no longer at the helm and vice chairman. Quote here, that's the story of why we own American Express, which is a wonderful business. We own Coca-Cola, which is a wonderful business. And we own Apple, which is even a better business. And we will own, unless something really extraordinary happens, we will own Apple, American Express, and Coca-Cola. American Express, that sort of represents your business travel and those kind of things. And then Coca-Cola is just your general consumer going out to restaurants. And Coca-Cola's everywhere. They have not just soda, but they also have lots of snacks and these kind of things. So, would Coca-Cola fail? Probably not. I won't say they have a monopoly, but they certainly are ubiquitous. I can tell you, actually, guys, here in Korea, we do have Korean brands that compete with Coca-Cola, but Coca-Cola still does very well, of course. Yeah. And actually, this is the part where I was talking about taxes and Apple. He says here, it doesn't bother me in the least to write that check, and I would really hope with all the Americas done for all of you, it shouldn't bother you that we do it. And if I'm doing it at 21% this year, we're doing a little higher percentage later on. I don't think you'll actually mind the fact that we sold a little bit of Apple this year. So that was sort of the thing on that. Yeah, I don't know if if Greg Abel's going to be their replacement. And actually, no, we'll just search for a picture of him real quick. Yeah, that's the guy. And that's going to be the really interesting thing is how much is Berkshire Hathaway Buffett like you do it because of Buffett, and if Buffett stepped down, they just can't get the attention anymore. That's going to be an interesting question. They're dealing with some sort of power thing too, where one of their companies is facing lawsuits because they own sizable stakes, and I think that was an interesting to talk about, because one thing that happens that's really funny about Mr. Buffett is oftentimes if a company's in trouble or something like that, they'll come to Mr. Buffett and hey, Mr. Warren Buffett, we need to borrow some money. Can you help us out here? Or, actually I did a call with a member of a community, and we were laughing about could you imagine, the United States government hey, Mr. Buffett, we're running out of money to support our initiatives. Can you help us out? And that's not unusual, actually. During the financial crisis back in 2008, that was conversations with Mr. Buffett to come in and help bail out the banks, because he's got so much money over there at Berkshire Hathaway. There was an interesting point that he was talking about how he thinks AI is going to be a problem in the future for scamming. So a headline here is Buffett says AI scamming could be the next big growth industry. And what's interesting, we'll actually read a quote of this. It says here, when you think about the potential for scamming people, if you can reproduce images that I can't even tell, that say, I need money as your daughter, I just had a car crash and need 50,000 wired. Scamming has always been part of the American scene, but this would make me, if I was interested in investing scamming, it's going to be a growth industry of all time. Wow, it's going to be the growth industry of all time. So we say scamming, and it's it's funny talking about this because we talk about scams a lot on this channel, and Buffett's probably right. I mean, scams are going to increase by oodles and bounds, and he goes on to say like how hard it is to fight this stuff. And I'm just talking with you. This is sort of why I believe in, I do my videos uncut, just like, hey, I'm a real person, I show my face, this kind of things. Not every channel does. A lot of channels cut it up correctly and don't show their face. And moreover, I'm really focused on building a community where we help each other to essentially fight the misinformation, disinformation, and scams. Talking about more what Buffett said, he says here, I said we let the genie out of the bottle when we developed nuclear weapons, and that genie has been doing some terrible things lately. And the power of the genie is what scares the hell out of me. And I don't know any way to get the genie back in the bottle. And AI is somewhat similar. So I remember watching something, and he was saying like, how do you fight against AI when it's going to be so good in terms of scams? And again, my answer would be our community, that kind of thing. He's also talking about being honest. Buffett found Munger truly honest. We can read a little bit of this. I trust my children and my wife totally, but that doesn't mean I ask them what stocks to buy. That's a pretty fun one, actually. In terms of managing money, there wasn't anybody better in the world to talk to for many, many decades than Charlie. That doesn't mean I didn't talk to other people. Still, if I didn't think I could do it myself, I would have done it. So to some extent, I talk to myself on investments. When you get that in your life, you cherish those people and you sort of forget about the rest. Every time we talk about this is the Canada thing. What's the quote here? We do not feel uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form putting our money into Canada. In fact, we've actually looked at one thing now. So it's like, what could it be? What's the speculation it says there? Heading into this meeting, there's a lot of speculation about which investment Berkshire built. Like, it doesn't say, maybe financial sector. Do be careful though with Canadian stuff, guys. On YouTube, there's a whole bunch of Canadian mining stuff that's pretty scammy. So just be careful about that. Is Canada great as a whole? How's their economy going to do? It's connected to the USA. I don't think it does that much differently. They generally follow stuff like that. Here's another one. It's always interesting quotes of Buffett. We only swing at pitches we like. It says we only swing at pitches we like. We don't. Asking about they have a bunch of money. Are you going to buy something? We don't use it now at 5.4%. But we wouldn't use it if it was at 1%. Don't tell the Federal Reserve. So basically, if you can collect that interest, just holding cash, just do that, etc. That's kind of the main stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that was worth mentioning regarding Buffett. Talking about the lawsuit thing before, and then here's some how do you think about Powell? Warren Buffett praised Federal Jerome Powell for his work steering the economy over the next few years. At Berkshire Hathaway's annual meeting, Buffett called Powell a very wise man. However, he noted the central bank needs to help from lawmakers to rein in growing deficit. And then he says here, Powell doesn't control fiscal policy, and every now and then he sends out a disguised plea. But that's where the trouble will be if we have it. He's actually got to, talking about Buffett here, he's got to be really careful about what he says about Powell, right? So Buffett is well aware of the words that he say, that literally we're looking at it, that people follow, his advice. Like Buffett can't really say, "Oh my God, Powell's an idiot. We're all gonna be, we're all doomed," and he can't say that kind of stuff. So, we can have our own separate opinions, but understand the stuff that he says is very, very different than the way that we can talk kind of more frequently. And then the last thing he said is, "I hope I can come again. I hope I come next year." I honestly, I'm not going to say necessarily, his health is in danger, say next year, but whether or not he can run his company and do this, I don't think so. So I personally think this is probably his last event. So anyway, that's what's going on with Mr. Buffett, and I just wanted to share some thoughts on these things. I always think it's really interesting, and wish him the best. And again, I do miss Charlie Munger quite a bit. So thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you next video.